Alexander was the greatest conqueror in human history. His military efforts began after the Greek vassal states revolted against him in 335 BC. The result was the destruction of the city Thebes. The Greek states were now more cautious and no longer eager to oppose the Macedonian king. Alexander's eyes now turned eastwards. His invasion of Persia began with the battle at the Granicus River in May 34 BC, which marked the start of the campaign, striving to avenge the Greek forefathers. Alexander went on to defeat the Persians at Issus in 333 BC. This victory resulted in the occupation of the Persian coastline facing the Mediterranean, as well as the capture of Darius's family. The Macedonian Greek army now marched further down the coast, besieging and eventually capturing the cities of Gaza and Tyre. These victories secured the old kingdom of Egypt that had been suppressed by Persian rule for over 200 years. It was after this liberation when Alexander decided to found a new city. He would name it Alexandria. The aim was now to capture the Persian king Darius and consolidate Greek control over Persia. Alexander marched his army through difficult terrain, including deserts and mountains, to catch up with the newly formed opposing army. The two armies eventually met at Gaugamela, which was strategically significant for both sides, due to its relatively open terrain that favored the Macedonian phalanx and cavalry. Alexander's tactical brilliance and the superior discipline of his troops prevailed. His forces defeated Darius's larger but less organized army. Although the Persian king escaped again. This victory effectively marked the end of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Babylon, Susa, and the capital of the empire, Persepolis, were now all exposed and soon to be taken. However, the Achaemenid Empire was vast, and not all lands would give up so easily. The Macedonian king had to deal with the eastern provinces of Bactria and Sogdiana. In the end, however, technically all challenges were overcome, and the empire was stabilized.
Welcome to the year 323 BC. It's been 13 years since a young Macedonian king decided to revenge his Greek forefathers. However, a campaign formed through a mutual grudge eventually turned into the Hellenistic conquest of the world. The results were unmatched. At just 30 years old, Alexander ruled over 50 million people, a third of the human population back then, and it only took him 13 years to accomplish this. But how was it even possible? A person who is often overlooked when talking about great generals and leaders of antiquity is Alexander's father, King Philip II. Philip secured Macedonian control over the Greek states and reorganized its military. With the phalanx in its center, Philip built the most capable fighting force of the era. So when Alexander took over the power after his father's death, he already possessed a true force to be reckoned with, using it to destroy the ancient city of Thebes, ending a Greek revolt. The kings of ancient Macedon were not distant rulers. They actively fought alongside their armies. Alexander, surpassing expectations, consistently led the cavalry himself. This dedication extended into Persian lands, where he narrowly escaped death during the battle at the Granicus River. Throughout his Asian campaigns, the young king faced 9 severe injuries. His soldiers knew he'd sacrifice for them just as they would for him. Moreover, Alexander the Great displayed generosity toward his soldiers and generals. They were rewarded with significant spoils of war, including wealth and land acquired during military campaigns. This generosity fostered an incredibly loyal army, marching far beyond their intended destinations, conquering distant lands with superior military tactics. While loyalty and devotion are commendable, the outcome of wars is often determined by battles. In both the battles of Issus and Gaugamela, the Greek forces, led by Alexander the Great, faced significant numerical disadvantages, being outnumbered 2-1 and 2.5-1, respectively. Despite this, the Greeks emerged victorious decisively. The key differentiator lay in the coordination and discipline exhibited by the Persian forces. On one side, there were conscripted peasants compelled into service by a king who, in both engagements, fled the battlefield. On the opposing side, disciplined soldiers, for whom the battlefield was a second home, fought under the leadership of their king, Alexander. This stark contrast contributed to the Persian forces' lack of cohesion. Alexander's success also stemmed from the implementation of an early version of the famed blitzkrieg strategy, emphasizing rapid maneuvers and swift strikes to outmaneuver the enemy. This strategic innovation played a crucial role in the Greek victories. However, signs of the Persian Empire's decline were evident. Following consecutive defeats in Greece during the 5th century BC, Persia halted its expansion. In the century preceding Alexander's reign, internal conflicts such as civil wars and rebellions further weakened Persia. Although Darius commanded a massive army, Persia was gradually receding on the world stage, while Macedon possessed the momentum of an ascending military superpower. One of the crucial elements contributing to Alexander's success was his willingness to embrace diverse cultures. He demonstrated respect for Persian traditions by adopting their clothing, allowing Persian children to receive Greek military training, and marrying a Persian noblewoman, Roxanne. For many foreigners, Alexander wasn't seen as an invader, but as a liberator who freed nations from Persian suppression without erasing their distinct identities. Alexander's determination and tirelessness played a pivotal role. He persuaded his companions to press on after the Battle of Gaugamela, ensuring the destruction of the last remnants of resistance across the empire. The Greeks extended their influence over regions like Bactria, Sogdiana, and Gandhara. 326 BC, Alexander the Great, the founder of the greatest empire the ancient world had seen, embarked on one of his most ambitious campaigns, the invasion of India. His journey took him to the fringes of the known world, where he encountered diverse cultures, formidable foes, and the rich lands of the Indian subcontinent. Alexander led his troops across the treacherous Hindu Kush mountains, entering the northwestern regions of present-day Pakistan. This was further east than any Greek had ventured before. His aim was to expand his empire and explore the territories beyond the Indus River. Along the way, Alexander successfully captured multiple cities and repelled enemy skirmishes aimed at slowing his advance. His most notable encounter was with King Porus, a ruler of the Punjab region. The Battle of the Hydaspes was fought on the riverbanks in 326 BC. Greek sources describe a fierce and challenging battle. Alexander faced war elephants and a disciplined army, a sight previously unseen by his troops. Initially, the elephants were highly effective against the perplexed Greek soldiers. The sheer size and strength of these war animals caused significant disruption in the Macedonian ranks. However, the disciplined Greek phalanx, wielding their long spears, performed coordinated maneuvers that eventually caused the elephants to panic. The terrified animals turned back and trampled many allied Indian soldiers beneath them, similar to what happened later at the Battle of Zama. Despite the daunting presence of these elephants and the ferocity of Porus's troops, Alexander's superior strategy and the valor of his men led to a hard-fought victory. According to Greek accounts, after the battle, Porus was captured but treated with respect and honor. Alexander, impressed by Porus's bravery and leadership, reinstated him as a satrap or governor of his own kingdom. Tragically, during this campaign, Alexander's beloved horse, Bucephalos, died. Accounts vary, with some suggesting he was wounded in the battle, while others claim he succumbed to old age and the rigors of the campaign. In his honor, Alexander founded the city of Bucephala on the banks of the Hydaspes River. However, Indian historical records and oral traditions do not provide the same detailed accounts of this battle. In fact, there are no records that this battle even happened at all. Some Indian historians argue that the lack of local sources indicates either the event's lesser significance or potential embellishment by Greek historians. It is also suggested that Indian chroniclers might have chosen not to document a defeat, a common practice in ancient times. This raises the question, if the Indian forces had won a significant battle against Alexander, why are there no Indian records of such a victory? The Greek version, despite potential biases and propaganda, is detailed and consistent among different sources. This suggests that while it may be exaggerated, it is likely grounded in actual events. After the battle, Alexander's army, exhausted by years of campaigning and unfamiliar with the challenging Indian monsoons and terrain, refused to march further east. The weary soldiers longed to return home, prompting Alexander to agree to turn back. His plans to expand further into the Indian subcontinent were thus curtailed. In the end, while debates continue about the accuracy of historical accounts, it remains clear that Alexander the Great, during his campaign in India, maintained his undefeated record. His legacy as one of history's greatest military commanders endures, despite the mysteries and gaps in the historical record.
323 BC, Alexander the Great died in Babylon. His body was embalmed and placed in a golden coffin. A carriage, unlike any other, was prepared to carry the dead king home to Macedonia. However, the governor of Egypt, Ptolemy, had the carriage stolen to legitimize himself as heir to Alexander's empire. Therefore, Alexander's remains were brought to Memphis, the old capital of Egypt. During the early 3rd century BC, the remains of the great king were further transported, this time to Alexandria. The last confirmation that we have of Alexander's tomb occurred in 390 AD in Alexandria. Afterwards, it was swallowed by history. It's possible that his last resting place, that resembled a great temple, was either burned down or transformed into something different. His body could have likely been stolen or shipped somewhere else. Although there have been many archaeological discoveries and claims, the location of Alexander the Great's tomb remains a mystery.